Hey, fellow dads in business. This is Bennett here with another fantasy football weekly recap for our Dads in Business League. This is a combined week 6 and week 7 recap because I did not get to last week and there was an important result that I have to share. So I'm going to share a little bit about week 6 and then moving on to week 7. Before that, I do want to just give a quick update on what I did this past weekend instead of watching football. And that was watch the end of both my daughter's softball league and son's baseball team. Both of those leagues came to an end this weekend. It was an amazing fall. The weather was great. Both kids enjoyed it and their teams played really well. So it was a lot of fun. I loved every second of it. Of course, I'm a little happy that it's over because there's less driving around as we head into the winter. So the weekend finished with my daughter's last game, which was not a playoff game. So nothing really to report there. But my son in his league had 2 playoff games and both of them were 1-run games. So if any of you guys are in Little League or do any kind of Little League, there's an app called Game Changer, which is basically a statistical app for all these Little League sports. So if your team or your league has signed up for it and you have someone on the team, either a coach or a dad or a parent, putting in the box score or putting in the plays as they happen, then you can actually follow along elsewhere with the game, not only with the play-by-play, but there's a function that allows you to stream directly through the app and actually have a video feed with play-by-play on it. So I figured that out finally towards the end of the year, and I was really excited because I did a test run where I literally put the phone up at the game, hit live stream, and literally it just starts streaming with audio and everything. So I did a little play-by-play for one of the non-playoff games. And the coach liked it so much that he insisted that I do a full play-by-play for both playoff games. So I got into broadcasting mode, had a lot of fun, and basically propped the camera up and did a play-by-play for the entire game, both Saturday and Sunday's playoff games. So I'm going to play you a little bit of the walk-off we had on Saturday, where the game went into extra innings, and the Thunder, my son's team, won it on a walk-off wild pitch in the 9th inning, so it went to extra innings. And then the next day, they lost 1-0, where each starting pitcher pitched the first 6 innings of the game, shutout game, lots of great defense, and we ended up losing it 1-0 on a 2-out single in the 7th. So the season ended without a championship, but I got to do play-by-play for these last 2 games. And before we get into the recap, I just want to show off my broadcasting skills as well as a fun ending to a game. So here's a quick video of my son's baseball game, and then we'll get right into the recap. All right, Thunder. Here we go. First and second, no outs. Evan Forrest at the plate. He does have a hit on the day. And that one's in the dirt. Nice stop by the catcher. That would have been nice to get the runners into second and third. But it's just a ball here. And the 1-0 pitch is also in the dirt. This one does get past, and the runners are running to third. And he slides in, and he just beats the tag at third. So we've got a wild pitch. Both runners advance. Now we've got the hitter is in a 2-0 count. The winning run is at third base with no outs. A fly ball will win the game here. A wild pitch will win the game. And the 2-0 pitch to Forrest is a wild pitch. And the runner's coming in. And he's going to slide in safely. And the Thunder win the game on a wild pitch. They're going to win the game 8-7. A really, really good nail biter. Went to extra innings. The Bulldogs played a great game, but the wild pitches do the Bulldogs in. The Thunder win the game 8-7. Woo! All right, so that's a lot of fun. And again, if you're in any of these Little League little leagues with Game Changer app, and you want to broadcast a video, whether it's with no sound or if you want to do play by play like me, it's really easy and a lot of fun to do. And parents that are not at the game will watch them, so a lot of fun. All right, so let's get into the recap. Like I said, I have one important score from week 6 to recap, which is the Killer Bees' unfortunate 1/2 point loss to Judgment Day. That was probably my best chance to get the first win of the year. The lowly Killer Bees, who've had nothing but injuries all year, and as you can see from the scoreboard, lost 113-5 to 114. And so not only do we have the close game, which came down to Monday night, where I needed another one catch for another 10 or 11 yards from Tyler Conklin, and I would have won the game, because you can see there's only 2 points there. So it went down to Monday night in the fourth quarter. I was hoping for one big play from Aaron Rodgers because I had Aaron Rodgers in my other league, and I literally needed like another touchdown and another pass to Tyler Conklin, and I would have won both games. Sure enough, neither of those things happened. I lose both games, and the biggest thing, of course, is not only the 1/2 point loss, but the bench player of the week award, which is going to go to Mark Andrews because he had 13.5 points on Sunday. So his first good game of the year. If you look at Andrews, you can sort of see why my thought process on not having him in there, because if you look at his game log, prior to these past 2 weeks, he hadn't had more than a couple catches and 7 points in any week. So I had Conklin in over Andrews, and Andrews finally showed up. He had 13.5 points, which easily, adding that 11.5 points would have easily had my first victory of the year. But alas, the Killer Bees go down again. We're 0-6 now, as you'll see, 0-7 as we get into this week's game. So congratulations to Mark Andrews for winning the Bench Player of the Week award, keeping me from my first victory. That was week 6. Now we go to week 7. And again, personally did not watch a lot of football because I had my Little League, my kids' games, as I mentioned. This game, as you can see, the Killer Bees lost again to Gritty Dancer. Actually had a pretty good game. Lamar Jackson with his 5 touchdowns on Monday night. But unfortunately, nothing from Dameon Pierce. You've got Keenan Allen on a bye, and you've got just a bunch of knuckleheads here with not much points, although Ray Davis did have a pretty good game against Tennessee. So not a lot of points there. Gritty Dancer is one of the top teams in the league. Matt's team is 5-2. I had a chance to win Monday night. I actually took the lead when I had Mark Andrews score his second touchdown, but unfortunately between Baker Mayfield and Derrick Henry, that canceled it out. So they pulled away late Monday night. So Gritty Dancer goes to 5-2. Only Idiots Go to College had a really bad week, only 65.5 points. You can see they had a pretty good day from Burrow and Aaron Jones, but nothing else. 2 big goose eggs by New Orleans, who, as you probably remember, they scored about 90-something points in the first 2 games of the year and literally have not scored much after that. Derek Carr is hurt. Olavi, I believe, is out for the season. Shaheed is out for the season. And that's kind of a theme that we have with all of NFL, which is just nothing but injuries. I don't know how, teams get to the end of the season with anyone healthy. It's just a brutal sport. So you got 2 injuries there with no points. Nothing much on the bench either, other than Justin Herbert. The End Zone Esquires do get the win with 98 points. Nothing spectacular. They did get enough from St. Brown and from Darnold and Walker to negate Tank Dell's 0 and having 23.5 points on the bench. Ultimately, that didn't matter. End Zone Esquires get the win. They move to 3-4. We have the high score of the league with John Machado, 2 cups and 1 love. So I guess he's not the emoji team anymore. And there's been some name changes throughout the year. I'm not a big fan of that because it's just confusing for me. But John Machado actually has a real name. He's 2 cups, 1 love. He gets the top points, scores the top most points in the league. As you can see, 30 points from Gibbs. um, you know, 20, 25, 24, a couple double digits, and a measly 1 point from Xavier Leggett. But in spite of that, they score, that might even be the league high in points for the year with 168.5, and not Chat GPT goes to 3-4, as they did pretty good with Hall and Hertz. Not a terrible point total, but I believe Debo Samuel is out also hurt. So just not enough points when you go against the top scoring team in the league. We've got the Derry Demons going to 4-3 with a nice solid win over Judgment Day. Judgment Day had yet another injury. We had Juju Smith-Schuster got hurt. Jane Daniels got hurt early in the game. He did have 5 points. Would have had an additional 15 with Kyle if Kyler Murray had started. But of course, you can't predict the injury going into the game. And so just not enough points with the aforementioned injuries. I think Brandon Ayuk might also be out for the year. And the Derry Demons, again, very solid, 120 points. They got a good day from Barkley and Allen, along with George Pickens from Pittsburgh. And pretty much squeezed every bit of points out of the week, because as you can see, you've got nothing from NTN. Moore's on a bye. Goddard, nothing. Quentin Johnson, nothing. So squeezed every little bit out of his team for the week to get the win. We have Go Bijan Go with a solid win over Cashflow Crusaders. Both teams are 3-4. You've got another bench player that did pretty well, which is Drake May over Anthony Richardson. So that score would have been even more had they had the right quarterback in. But Bijan Robinson, the number 1 overall pick in the draft, with 22.5 points, and just a little smattering of scores from everyone else. Meanwhile, Cashflow Crusaders couldn't quite get over the hump, even though they had a nice game from Rashad White and Trevor Lawrence. Not much on the bench either, so really they squeezed all the points they could get out of their week. Wasn't quite enough to get there. And then finally, we have the Mahomies, 5-2, defeating the Weird Emoji team, which is, I guess, a jab at Machado's team there by Eric Schoenberg. I don't even remember what his other team was. He's just switching them up on me, and I can't keep up. Uh, but so I guess they deserve, just from a shit talking perspective, deserve to only score 78 points to fall to 5-2. As you can see, Stroud without his receivers not being able to do stuff. Ramondre Stevenson just being on a crappy team. So just not a lot of points there, even with the Bengals defense getting a defensive touchdown. Of course, you could have had Goff in instead with 21 points instead of Stroud. And that would have been a 17 point. Yeah, that would have done it. So, I guess an honorable mention for bench player of the week, or I guess I'll give Goff the bench player of the week for week 7. Cause that, if I'm doing my math in my head right, I think 16 points would have just still been a half a point short. So I apologize for my lack of, being able to do math on the fly. You've got 95 points from the Mahomies, with Brock Purdy having a solid game in a loss. James Conner, who's just been solid year after year, and Kareem Hunt for Kansas City. And then a nice 21 points from the kicker. So that's it for the week. Quick look at the standings. We have the Mahomies and Gritty Dancer leading their respective divisions, 2 cups and 1 love, and the Weird Emoji team just behind points wise, even though they have the same record. And then, of course, you've got the lowly Killer Bees over here, the only team with less than 2 wins, with less than 3 wins, and I have 0 wins, and I have a 1% chance of making the playoffs. So this has been a lot of fun for me. And then, of course, I always like to look at the points to see if anybody's getting significantly good or bad luck. You've got the 5-2 teams over here have the top points for the league. You've got the 5-2 team over here. So the only team, the Weird Emoji team, is the only team that's maybe gotten a little bit of luck with their 5-2 record, because they have significantly fewer points than the top tier teams. Of course, you've got the lowly Killer Bees with the fewest amount of points. Although, if you look, Only Idiots Pay for College is not too much ahead. Same with the Cash Flow Crusaders, and they both have 3 wins. So there is a little bit of bad luck for the Killer Bees if you look at the points against, you know, third highest points against. So with a little bit of luck, I'd have at least 1 or 2 wins, but either way, my team is nothing to to get excited about, frankly. Maybe McCaffrey will be back in week 9. So anyway, another weekly recap in the books. As always, thanks for watching. Thank you for your patience missing last week. And of course, we'll see you next week on the Dads in Business Fantasy Football Weekend show. Thanks for watching.